Hello! Today we are going to be taking a look at my unpopular opinions when it comes to Vocaloid and Project SEKAI. Remember that these are just my opinions, so please no hate in the comments, and let's get into it. Number one is that I do not care about the unknown Vocaloids. I feel like there's this hierarchy in the community that's like, oh, you don't know who blank Vocaloid is? Well, then you're not a real Vocaloid fan, and I think that's a bit ridiculous. Yes, I know that it's like, you know, if you want to be a fan, maybe you should know like who Teto is, but I feel like if you don't know who the weird, obscure boy band Zola is, I feel like that doesn't really matter. Here is a lovely tier list that someone put together whose account is no longer active, so I can't really credit them, sorry. But this kind of shows just how obscure every Vocaloid is. And I feel like if you don't really know who half of these are, it doesn't matter, you can still be a Vocaloid fan. Next is that Teto has the best voice bank. Out of all the Vocaloids, out of all the Fanloids, out of all the Utaloids, she has the best. Now, I do like her synth one, which I feel like is an unpopular opinion within itself, but I do like her original voice bank as well. I feel like she has the most sort of human-sounding voice, even in her original. Her original sounded robotic, just like every other Vocaloid, but I feel like she's always had such a sort of clean sound to her voice, and that is why I think she is the best voice bank. Not my favorite voice bank, let me get that straight. My favorite voice bank is definitely Iya or Miku, but she is definitely the best sounding one. Next is that I like the English covers, especially Judy Phonics. I think these are some of the most amazing covers. I know that in the community right now there's a lot of discourse about whether these are good or not, or if they're like, you know, true Vocaloid songs if you listen to them, but I just think they're really good, and I don't care that they're not the Vocaloids singing them. I still think they are amazing, and since I don't understand Japanese, sometimes it's nice to listen to them and actually, you know, kind of understand what the song is about. I don't like Mesmerizer. Now, don't get me wrong, I can understand why this song is, you know, a good song, how it's composed and how the vocals are sang. I understand that, but I don't like it. I think it is so annoying, which is definitely just my opinion, but once again, this whole video is about my opinions, so there you go. But I just think it's so, I don't know, it's like upbeat and sort of like almost drug-inducing, like it just, it's like if you were to like bite into an overly sweet apple. That's what it feels like to me, and I don't like it. Now, there's a couple things with Project Diva. One, I don't really like it. And when I say I don't really like it, I don't mean the actual game. I think the actual like designs and character mods are beautiful, but the gameplay, which is the main part of the game, I hate it. I downloaded a demo of one thinking I would download it and be like a new Project Diva fan after years of being like, whatever, I don't feel like downloading it, it's too much money, blah, blah, blah. No, the way that the notes fly in and they're like rounded, and it's just, I can't get behind it. I mean, I'm not really a rhythm game person, so maybe that's my problem, but when comparing it to Project SEKAI, I just prefer that gameplay so much more to Project Diva. Now let's move on to the Project SEKAI half of this video. Let's talk about the group leaders. Now, I have a couple opinions about this. Let's start with the ones I think should not be the group leaders. Now, I think when we think about like Minori or Ichika, I think they are perfect group leaders. They are the main character, most of the stories are about them, and you know, the whole story kind of revolves around them. But when it comes to Kanade and Kohane, I think those two should not be the group leaders. Let's start with Kanade. Now, I know that's a bit of an unpopular opinion, seeing as a lot of the stories do revolve around Kanade, and a lot of what happens is kind of tied back to her as a character, but I think the sort of group leader for this should definitely be Miku. Now, I know what you're thinking. Miku does the songwriting, she doesn't compose it. Kanade is the leader of the band, so she should definitely be the leader of this sort of Project SEKAI group. Yes, sure, whatever. But I feel like not only the fandom, but Sega and Project SEKAI itself puts way more effort into Miku and Mifuyu's story, and I feel like that's why Miku should be the sort of leader of their group. Now let's talk about Kohane. Now, Vivid Bad Squad and Kohane, it's a bit of a struggle to me because they do have those two very distinct pairings, which I know is just kind of Vivid Bad Squad's thing, and I don't hate that. It is one of my favorite of the groups. But I feel like they should have either two group leaders, or it should be Akito or Ann as the group leaders. Now, hear me out. I know that sounds a bit crazy. The main story is focused around Kohane, and a lot of their events are focused around Kohane, and that makes sense. But when you think about the group and sort of their motivations in life and their big thing they're trying to do, which for them is of course surpassing Rad Weekend, I feel like Akito and Ann are really the sort of main characters for that. They are so determined to get over this, and they have way more character growth, and I just feel like there's so much more that we could have done with them as compared to Kohane. I feel like Kohane and Toya are kind of like the more reserved backseat characters. Yes, Kohane changes a lot throughout her story, but I just feel like she shouldn't be the main character of their group, if you know what I mean. Ooh, okay, I know I'm gonna get some hate for this one, but Ichika has no character. This is an opinion I've had ever since I started Project SEKAI and started reading their stories. I tried really hard to delve into each character to kind of determine who they are, what motivates them, what's their personality, because I love writing and I love sort of just learning about different characters, especially when it is my hyperfixation at the time. And so I really wanted to like Ichika. I felt like Leonie's story was a very interesting one. I feel like they could have done so much with Ichika, but they didn't. She just seems like, you know, sometimes you meet people and you're like, well, that is a person. They don't have a personality. Like, yes, it's a person, but there's nothing special about them. And I feel like that is Ichika. Yes, she writes music. Yes, she's so protective over Saki, blah, 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 blah. But there's just nothing special about her. And I don't know why she is sort of the main character of all of Project SEKAI. In any of the official art, in any of the, like, you know, ads they put out there, it is always Ichika and Miku. And I just feel like Ichika has the worst character out of all of them. Out of all the Mikus, I think Vivid Bad Squad Miku is the worst. And I say that as someone who adores Vivid Bad Squad. Every time I read a Vivid Bad Squad story or event or anything, Miku just kind of feels like she's shoehorned in there, you know? Like, I feel like if they didn't have to put Miku in everything, it would be Meiko. Meiko would be there, and Meiko would be the sort of, you know, stand-in for Miku. But since this is Hatsune Miku Colorful Stage, I feel like they kind of feel like they have to put Miku in there, and so we get this kind of basic Miku. I know Miku isn't supposed to really have a personality, because that's, you know, she's just this little facade for you to do whatever you want and create your own character. But I feel like at least with the other units, we at least see them kind of try. And like, you can feel like, hey, this Miku kind of has personality. Wonderland X Showtime Miku, she's crazy, she's bubbly, she's fun. Night Court Miku, she's friggin' spooky. I don't know what it is with that Miku, she is spooky. This Miku, I mean, she's just kind of there. She doesn't really do anything, she hasn't really bonded with any of the characters. I feel like if you were to go up to Anne and be like, hey, who's Miku? She'd be like, yeah, she's this girl that just chills in her Sekai and every now and then tries to bake things. Like, this Miku just isn't special. I love the Sekai covers. I know a lot of people think that Project SEKAI is ruining Vocaloid with these awful covers and the originals are so much better. But honestly, I love some of the covers. Some of my favorites are Shadow Shadow, and I love Usewa. I know I'm probably saying that wrong, but of course there is always going to be some songs that I do agree with. Ghost Rule, oh my god, what a dreadful cover. I think if they all sounded like that, I would be one of those Project SEKAI haters that's like, they're ruining the fandom, But other than that, no, I do think a lot of covers in this game are amazing, and honestly, 9 times out of 10, I listen to the Project SEKAI cover more than the original Vocaloid song. I hate the figures. Now, when I first saw these leaked, I was like, oh, okay, they're not that bad. Maybe these are the prototypes. But look at Rui's face. I mean, what? Then again, if these were released here in Canada, or if I could get my grubby little hands on them, I would 100% do that in a heartbeat. But they're so janky looking, especially compared to a Miku that you can get for the same price. I mean, these Mikus are absolutely stunning. And for the same price, or sometimes even less, you can get a Miku that looks absolutely 10 times better, way more detail, and doesn't look nearly as cheap. Last but not least, Viva Bad Squad is the best unit. Now, for the longest time, I believed that Night Court was the best unit, and I still believe that they have the best story. But this is a game that is all centered around music, and so I think for that, I'm gonna give this award to Viva Bad Squad. 100% I will die on this hill. Their music is the best, they're the most dedicated to their music, and the side story about Nagi is just, I don't usually cry over movies, TV, and especially not reading, and this is kind of reading, but oh my god, did I cry when Nagi died. And they covered it so well. To top it all off, it has the best ship, Akito and Toya. Don't fight me on it, I think they are the cutest ship, and so this is why I think their unit is the absolute best, and I will fight anyone that says it is not. And those are my most hot takes on Vocaloid and Project SEKAI. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, just be kind, because I know I sounded harsh throughout this video, but you know, it's an opinions video, so of course I did. Anyway, I can't wait to see you next week with our next video. Bye!